Okay, 5 minutes on fear. Um, I'm feeling Luigi has some relationship to fear that I want to explore. This relationship to fear, I think, has something to do with him being slightly like lanky and sort of tall and thin, let's say. Why? Well, um, in Super Mario Brothers 2, at least the version that I know, is that version which is a remake of another game, right? And you've got Luigi, I think, introduced there as someone who can hover in the air. This hovering in the air, first of all, is kind of associated to ghosts. I think that's interesting. That he's the character who can float in the air. Peach can float in that game as well, but let's look at that at some other moment. Um, Peach is kind of a spirit or a ghost because she's hidden in Super Mario 64. She becomes like a ghost that's hidden in the walls of the castle, but that's something else for another day. At the moment, we're talking about Luigi. Luigi can hover up in the air. He does this thing. And Yoshi can hover up in the air in that way, in a similar way. What they do is they move their limbs. And in moving their limbs in a sort of Looney Tunes kind of way, they stay up in the air, running in the air. It's a cartoony, Looney Tuny sort of thing. I think what it means is that the limbs are keeping them up in the air. So, for example, in the case of Luigi, he can wave his arms and his legs, he can flap them around enough that it keeps him up in the air. I think this has something to do with the fact that he has long limbs, that he's long limbed, that he is sort of thin in that way and tall. So he has long arms, long legs. And it's almost as if the length of the legs and the arms, the length is what allows him to hover up in the air, because it shows that he can hover with wide movements of the limbs. The limbs are so long that they can offer a wide sort of angle of movement. And also I think the lankiness, the thinness, has something maybe to do with him being sort of, again, light and nimble in that way. So that's one thing. Him being thin in comparison to Mario, like him being like the thin brother, might also have something to do with him absorbing ghosts in Luigi's Mansion. He absorbs ghosts, he eats because he's thin. Mario ejects water and energy because he's less thin than Luigi. So it's maybe also this accumulation of the body, of energy into the body, gets released or accumulated. Luigi then, I think, his fear has precisely something to do, I think, with him being thin. Like the symbol of thinness in these games, I think, has something to do with him having a stomach that is empty and therefore guts that can't quite take the fear in some way. This lack of being able to take the fear seems to be what elevates him up into fear and into the sky. It almost seems as if not having a base of the spine, not having a base of the stomach to keep him grounded in the world, elevates him into fears. Fears that exist maybe in the mind, right? It's like his body is not as grounded as Mario's, represented somehow by Mario's being a little more chubby than Luigi is, and Luigi's thinness elevates him. The sort of length of his limbs also allows him to stay up in the air like a Boo almost. In a sense, he is kind of like a Boo. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. Those were just I had these thoughts about the way in which fear plays into Luigi's character, the way fear builds up into Luigi's character and appears throughout the games until it becomes Luigi's Mansion and gets resolved in some way or finds some expression. I think Luigi's Mansion being created is some expression of Luigi's character being found finally by Mario, by the games, and finding expression in a way that I think allows the games to go to new places. It's sort of a landmark. Yeah, okay. Anyway, enough.